time is now 7:05. I call the December 13th, 2023 meeting of the Village of Suffern Planning Board order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on the agenda is IDCON 71 and 73 Lafayette Avenue. There we go.
So basically,
actually, you might go to the podium because that's how we pick up the audio. And introduce yourself and the address for the record.
sure. Paul Gdansky, 633 Woodmont Lane, Sloatsburg, New York. I'm the engineer for the project. So this project involves the reconfiguration of the parking that's at where the ATM is at the old bank, the old Provident Bank. Basically, that's all we're doing is reconfiguring it so we can gain more parking spaces so that the office building that's here has enough parking for what's there. There's a couple variances that we require, and we require a referral to the zoning board, and that's why we're here. That's basically it in a nutshell. We show landscaping, we show a couple light poles to satisfy the requirements.
Okay. Do you have any comments, anyone? Questions? So we need to refer this to the zoning board. My understanding is right.
Correct, yeah. You received back the comments from county planning. Mr. Gdansky addressed them, but that does have to go for variances to ZBA. Yeah, I would do a motion to refer to.
Motion to refer this to the ZBA.
I'll make that motion.
Motion, Mr. Halper, a second.
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. McInerney. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. We do have a sign application as well.
Yeah, they told me today that they applied for a sign. It's basically going, it's already there. It's in the same box that was there before.
Yeah, we have the comments from the building inspector. I think it's fine. It complies.
Yeah.
So do I have a motion to accept, to approve the sign application for 71 to 73 Lafayette Avenue?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, Mr. Halper. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Second, Mr. Van Sickle. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Just for the record, it's type 2 action that requires.
Okay.
You know what I mean.
We knew that.
You knew exactly what it was.
All right, up next on the agenda, IV2 Rockland Logistics LLC.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Darius Shepazeta, law firm Harris Beach for the applicant. Long time no see. We're back here again. The last few weeks have been a lot of work with your planner, Bonnie, who came in like Superman at the right time. So we believe we have a final finding statement under secret to close out the secret process, but I'd ask, obviously ask your planner and your attorney. I believe we're ready to go, and we would request a resolution of approval for the finding statement.
Hear from our planner and then go from there.
So what the planning board has in front of it is what we call a finding statement, and it's really the document that concludes the secret process. And essentially, it's actually nothing new. It's a document that summarizes all the impacts and all the mitigations that have been identified in the DEIS and the FEIS and puts it all into one document. And in fact, the finding statement also notes that all the impacts and mitigations, whether or not they're specifically listed in this findings document, are incorporated by reference. So essentially, it just binds the applicant to all the, mitigation measures that they have expressed in those documents. So it's, again, really the conclusion of the secret process. If you're in agreement with the summary, you would pass a resolution adopting the finding statement. It gets circulated to all the involved and interested agencies. It's published in the Environmental Notice Bulletin. This then begins the process of the applicant being able to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals to get its variances, because they wouldn't be able to to get any variances from the ZBA without concluding the seeker process. They still have to come back to you. They still have to finish the seeker process. I'm sorry, the site plan process, as well as, I believe there's a special use permit for the floodplain disturbances. There will be other permits and approvals that are required. All this is doing is concluding the environmental review. So I don't know if you have any questions. Again, this is, from my perspective, in as much as it's a new document to you, it's simply a summary of everything that was in the DEIS and the FEIS, which has been in front of you.
Great. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I had questions. I apologize. I wasn't able to attend the last meeting.
Sure.
I would have asked them then. But a few questions. I've read the EIS. I've read the whole thing. And maybe I missed it, but I'm not sure I understand the anticipated traffic flows out of the site to the major arteries of highways and so forth. There's a lot of focus on the road to Route 59 towards Tallman.
Yes.
But there's also improvements proposed for the Montebello Road as
Hemian
well.
and, yes.
And that raised questions of, is traffic through the village? Because if my GPS would take me through the village if there was a backup on.
Sure.
So I'd like to understand what the traffic flows are anticipated, because I didn't feel, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't feel like that was really touched on very clearly in the.
Okay. The applicant has their traffic engineer present or an
I read
engineer,
the
so,
traffic
yeah, they'll be able to
studies,
speak to
but it's
that.
mainly tables and it
Yeah,
doesn't really show
and
diagrams.
it's complicated, so it's useful just to have a,
Conversation.
yeah, exactly.
And I just want to point out, it did, the board, everybody did kind of go over this a little bit last time, but also there's the letter from Montebello, or at least their planner. Yes. So I think that, you know, you might want to address.
Yeah, we have received that letter. We did have a telephone conference with the Montebello mayor today. You know, the whole traffic issue has been discussed and outlined, and traffic engineers with tables, like you said. But generally, the general prospect that we're doing is there's going to be traffic not going into Montebello towards the Suffern School. The traffic is going to go out Hemian Road to Route 59. When you're leaving, make a left on 59, go to Airmont Road and get onto the highway. And the same, the reverse way, that there's not going to be traffic going towards Montebello. So that's the plan. The improvements, DOT is still looking at what they want, what we can do. One of the plans may be requiring eminent domain by other jurisdictions. So we've had a number of proposed mitigations that have been studied, part of the DEIS, FEIS, and if there's anything extra DOT wants, and there's ability to get the right-to-way, that will happen in the future. But that's the general 30,000-foot look at the traffic.
So if you're not anticipating traffic to Montebello Road, why are you improving that intersection?
What are we doing? An engineer can help better.
That sounds great.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Zach Kam, engineer for the applicant. I just want to clarify one thing. It is truck traffic that we're going to be limiting that will not be traveling through Montebello.
And that's what I'm talking about. I'm mainly concerned about truck traffic, large vehicles.
Perfect.
Not automobiles for workers.
Yep, so the offsite improvements will be made, but again, we need coordination between County Highway Department for the Hemian Road intersection, as well as State DOT for the other intersections. That work is going to be ongoing, and permits will be needed to be pulled. Montebello Road will just be pedestrian traffic for employees.
There's no other improvements.
Not on Montebello Road.
So I think the question is on Montebello Road, it's just pedestrian improvements?
You're improving it for pedestrians and workers using that road. And now, what would stop trucks? Because as I say, if there's a backup on the on-ramp or something, my GPS would take me through the village to get on 87, like near Sloburn in that area. That's a little bit of a concern because the village road has parking on both sides. It's fairly narrow. I'm nervous driving down it in an automobile. Is there anything that would prevent trucks from passing through the village?
The weight limit of the road restricts the size of the vehicle that could travel that roadway. So trucks would not be able to maneuver through that particular corridor.
Is there, and maybe this is something from a non-engineer, I think there's turning radii that cannot be made by trucks on that road, so it can't happen.
They can't turn.
They can't make the turn. Right.
That's the reason that the road has the weight limit that it does.
But how is the weight limit regulated? Is there? by the turns.
It's the same way that a speed limit's regulated. It's just a rule of the road.
But there's also the fact that if a truck happened to go that way and tried to, I think it's a right turn, I went and drove it, because I think it was probably 6-8 months ago, and like, there's no way a truck can make that turn. I think once you go past.
It would have to go into the oncoming traffic.
Try to make that right, it's impossible from the turning radius. I think that was in one of the plans I remember seeing too. So unless that's widened, which there's no plans to do that, it's physically impossible. So a truck could try to do it theoretically, but then they would not be able to get to where they're going, first of all, any quicker or at all.
Well, it seems like they could make that turn if it were at night and there were no other cars in the oncoming traffic lane. It seems like it's quite a wide road if you utilize the entire road. Is there anything else that would hinder traffic?
I understand, yeah, there'll be turning movement limitations in terms of signage to leave the site. If a truck happens to do that, which we think would be a rare situation, like you said, at night, there would need to be an enforcement issue with the police. But the plan is to have not only signage and other notices to the lessees, but also that the impossibility of it. But the one or two trucks that try to do it, we think would not be able to do it. And even if they try to do it at nighttime, there would be an enforcement issue with the local police.
And we could add signage to the effect of no left turns for trucks leaving Old Mill Road.
That would be good.
And that's been discussed.
Sure. Okay. That's really good. And a few other things. These are just my brain dump because I've read the whole thing. The view studies were very interesting. The only one I had any concern about was the library view with you see the roof of the building number 3, I think it was. And we can discuss this in the plan approval phase, but I think maybe if we could add evergreen trees to the slope, it would help mitigate that, because the library is set back into the wooded area and all the windows open up onto it, so it's sort of a part of the design of the library. It would be a real shame if you put a building there, it would ruin the illusion that you're in the woods reading and so forth.
Yeah, if there's any specific trees that would be asked for from the planning board, I think the applicant would be more than willing to do that, especially a few evergreens, if that's what ultimately you decide that you need.
So I think one of the mitigations that are set forth in there, and we can look at it before it's finalized.
You gotta go to the podium, please, thank you.
I can't hear you.
So there was discussion in terms of the mitigation. The two warehouses, buildings 2 and 3, are closer to the rail right-of-way.
Yeah.
And because there are also wetlands present there, you don't want to necessarily cut down trees and wetlands to then put in landscaping type trees. Right. So there has been a commitment, and we can make sure that it's also applicable to the library, is an offer to have trees planted on the library site. So between this time period of when the finding statement is adopted and site plan review, that the applicant would go off and make offers, talk to, I think one is a monastery, I think the other was Esther Gitlow, and we can include the library, that they have to offer to them that they are willing to plant, a certain number of evergreens to ensure that there's a screen between the site and the warehouses and the library itself. So it wasn't, there was a commitment to off-site improvements beyond whatever's being proposed.
I understand that. I'm sure the library would appreciate that. But looking at your landscape plan and the site sections, it did look like there was open area sort of further down the slope, so maybe a tall evergreen on the site.
On the site, yeah.
Because at the library, that backspace is used for outdoor reading events and things like that.
I think we'd be happy to go over that during the site plan.
Yeah, we don't have to solve that now. There was a comment that I saw. I thought I would mention it.
So I'll make sure that the finding statement reflects that. And it's a little, again, I think you have to really look specifically beyond the site itself to see where there might be open land. Some of it was disturbed because there was some development back in there, some accessory uses. But again, there's a combination of wetlands and that area. So we'll just have to make sure that it's in an area that you could put the trees and we don't want to disturb, like the wetlands.
Of course.
Yeah. So we can add that to the findings.
In terms of your energy efficiency and sort of commitment to environmentalism. There was early talk about a LEED certification, and I didn't see that. I saw the statements about sort of a commitment to being wellness and environmental. Is there a LEED certification being
We have
pursued?
the applicant's rep here from Brookfield, from IB2 Logistics.
Hi, my name is Lou DiGiacomo. I'm the development manager for the Rockland Logistics Center project, and all of our portfolio across all of the Brookfield Logistics projects are all LEED certified, so we'll likely look to be at a minimum a LEED certified building, or all 3 buildings, but in many cases we'll accomplish LEED Silver certification, and that's amongst other environmentally friendly things that we will do. We are building infrastructure on the roof to be able to withhold a future solar installation, things of that nature, so EV charging spots, so a few different things on that environmental ESG front.
So I had a slightly ulterior motive for asking that question. One of the points that you can get, some of the points you can get for LEED, fit well, those systems is about truck idling, to minimize truck idling. And in this facility, I was wondering, are you regulating the length of time that trucks idle? For LEED and the well certifications, you can get points for doing that, but do you have any plans to pursue those points, or any plans to limit truck idling times?
It's not something that we directly put into our LEED scope. It's a little bit hard to regulate. Sometimes we can include things in the leases, but it's, like I said, something that's a little bit hard and up to the operator ultimately.
Bonnie wants to say something.
The village code has an idling amount of time allotted for it, so we'll comply with the county.
Also, I believe New York State DOT, or DOT or DEC has regulations minimizing the amount of time that a truck can idle before it has to be turned off. Having said that, there are some exemptions depending on the circumstances. For instance, very cold weather, that can be got, around, but the village itself also has some regulations that apply as well.
Okay, I just wanted to be,
Yeah.
that sounds all right.
Yeah.
I just think to be conscious of it would be
Yep.
good. I read about the turtles and the long-eared bats. It sounds like you're mitigating that. No comment there. You did mention the pilot program. This is the planning board, not the village board, but I'm just curious, have you engaged in conversations with the village about the pilot program? I wouldn't even ask, except it was mentioned in your EIS.
The taxes?
Yeah, the taxes.
So we have been discussing this with the village, with the town assessor, with the town attorneys, with the school district, and we're hopefully coming to a conclusion shortly, but there is a discussion with the pilot and an application to the IDA for that, and we're hoping to get that in the right place in the next few months too, after secret.
Yeah, and that's what you said in your EIS, is that it would be after secret.
Yeah, we can't do anything until secret's complete, but we're getting there. It's like the turtle. The
turtle
turtles is
thing,
slow.
All right, that was my question. Thank you for answering them. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Are those trees going to be indigenous? Just curious.
Ideally, that would be
Indigenous trees?
the evergreens.
Native, yeah, that's
No of indigenous, okay. No palm trees.
no palm tree. Unless you want them. If you want them, we can put them in.
Just making sure. I want one of those Charlie Brown trees in front of
I have stories about those Charlie Brown trees.
We should bring that up with the site plan review.
Literally, I'm going to bring this up. So in the town of Minnesink, they had a solar facility being proposed, a very large scale, megawatt facility, and they had a landscaping plan that required evergreens, but there were no notes that said they couldn't substitute. So the intent of the evergreen screening was so that you wouldn't see it, and sure enough, there must have been a sale on the Charlie Brown trees, or they were out of the other trees, and they did plant the Charlie Brown trees. So it was a big to-do. Ultimately, they came back, but in the landscaping plan notes, when you get to site plan, we typically have specific notes that say you can't substitute without planning board review. You have to maintain the landscaping for the life of the use, and if there's any dead or dying material, you have to replace it. So the whole intent is you keep the screening as it's supposed to be and as it's shown on the plans. And yes, the whole, especially with the wetlands, but everything is intended. Our landscape architect, a landscape ecologist reviewed it and is requiring native species that are applicable and appropriate to to this particular forest.
That's standard and fine with the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Indigenous trees, one Charlie Brown tree, I think we're good. Okay.
Just one.
So, motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt the finding statement.
Do I have a motion to adopt the finding statement
As amended.
as amended?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Mr. Stanbridge, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. McInerney, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, the motion carries.
Mr. Chair, just one other housekeeping item. Your planner mentioned the zoning board. We've been in touch with your village attorney and Rob and the building department. We have gotten a letter, a response to our letter about variances that are required. There'll be 2 variances. We have an application ready to go and the deadline's Monday. Can we get a referral from the planning board for the 2 variances to the zoning board so we can get on their January agenda?
They can do the referral. I don't know about the January agenda, but yeah.
That'll be up to them, I guess.
Do I have a motion to refer this to the...
Bonnie wants to say something. What do you-
I was just gonna say, technically, I don't think you have to be referred.
I didn't think so, but
No, you're making a,
You don't have to be.
No, but
If
it'll-
you want to, you can.
it
Yeah,
looks,
why not? You're giving us a Charlie Brown tree, why not?
it looks nice in the minutes.
Yeah. Do we have a motion to refer this to the zoning board of appeals?
I'll make a motion. Oh, sorry.
Oh. Go ahead. Mr. Halper, do I have a second? A second. Mr. Van Sickle, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
thank you. I think that's it, bro. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice holiday season, everyone. We'll see you in January.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, 14 Wayne Avenue. Or 16 Wayne Avenue, 14 Wayne Avenue. It's 16, right? Yeah.
See you, Bonnie.
Take care, Bonnie. Good to see you.
Good evening, Patrick Loftus, 4 Laurel Road, New City, New York, appearing on behalf of Ira Emanuel, who is the attorney of record for the applicant this evening. This matter is a site plan relating to 14 Wayne Avenue in the Village. The principal of the owner of 14 Wayne Avenue, Darrell Green, who is present this evening, owns and operates an auto body shop at 16 Wayne Avenue next door, and this site plan is being presented so that he can expand his business to the property next door. We were prepared to discuss that site plan this evening, but we were handed a couple hours ago a 2-page memo from the building inspector that, upon reading it, shows that before we really can have a meaningful conversation with this board, there are some issues to address in the site plan. So I mean, we're happy to talk about it if you like, but I think for tonight, really what we're looking for is an adjournment without a date, and we will address what needs to be addressed and ask to have it placed back on the agenda when we're ready.
Sure.
But like I said, we are happy to discuss, answer questions if you like.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody has questions, you can ask.
Anybody have any questions about it, or should we just ask for...
Any questions about the plan?
Address the issues from the building inspector?
I don't have any questions.
Questions or comments? If you want to give them some guidance going forward, just, what you're thinking, or if you're okay with saying, all right, come back with something, and then we'll tell you can do that too.
Anyone?
No,
Do I have a motion?
Well, there's no need to motion, just so, no action. Right.
Just we'll adjourn it to another.
Thank you.
Okay, adjourned without date. Thank you.
Okay, we
I just point out as part of the memo, December 13th, it did say it's a special permit requirement, so if there's any, challenge to that, you have to take a look. Thank you.
Okay, old business, approve the minutes of the 11/29/2023 special meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Mr. Stanbridge, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. McInerney, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We also have old business, to amend the decision of the Washington U's regarding the money in lieu of recreation. Where?
So, I can explain that a little. When this was approved, originally back in 2018, the fee in lieu of recreation was set at $186,000, I believe, dollars. The applicant, I'm sorry, $184,500. The applicant, before paying it, pointed out that there was an error in the calculation. So we reviewed that, and it appears there was an error in the calculation, and instead of $184,500, I don't have the, do you have a copy of the resolution?
That's what I gave it to you. Here.
Instead of $184,500, it's $156,000 even. So if you're all good with that, you take a motion to, and I basically prepared a resolution with the planning board approved the site plan on October 18, 2018. It reinstated the site plan after it expired on January 15, 2020. The applicant brought to the attention of the village clerk that money in lieu of recreation was incorrect. Now therefore the board, after review of the applicant's request, hereby amends the prior decisions granting site plan approval and sets the money in lieu of recreation as follows, and the calculations are there at $156,000. So if you're good with that, somebody could make that motion to adopt that resolution.
Do we have any questions about it? Do we have a motion to accept this resolution?
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion. Mr. McInerney, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Stanbridge. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, and we need to schedule the date for the January meeting, which I believe would be the 17th. Is that, anybody have any conflicts to know about?
17th?
Of January, yes.
No, works for me.
Okay, do I have a motion to set the January 2024 meeting to January 17th at 7 p.m.?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, Mr. Halper, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Van Sickle. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Do I have any, is there any other old or new business anybody wants to try out? Any miscellaneous business? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. McInerney, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Stanbridge, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries, meeting is adjourned. Thank you. It is 7:32. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.